Then I started to learn about unconscious competence, which blew my mind. In football, people say footballers aren't clever, but to do anything in life, you have to know how to do it. So I feel that footballers are super intelligent in what they do and how they do it. But again, when I was at West Ham, I was under Tony Carr, who's he's a legend. He's seen as one of the best youth coaches in the country. And I thought I enjoyed playing under him, but him alongside all the others, no one spoke to me about unconscious competence. No one said, we are doing this to develop your unconscious thinking so you can free up your conscious mind to focus on the game at that moment in time. And I feel that football at the moment is focusing on probably only a small percent of potential. So we can have great players like Joe Coles that come through at my time and all those other guys, but I feel we have many sleeping giants that we bypass, and they're waiting for someone to unlock that potential inside them.
So in the book, the first thing you talk about, like really early on, and I said this to Micky off air, about as a footballer, we all watch the game, we've all played it to a certain level. Getting the ball and giving the ball. What happens you have 3 seconds, and you've got like an 18-stage set of things that happen when you get the ball. I was going to read this to you, Micky. Right? It's a long list, but I'll do it quickly. 1, visualise the different options open to them. When they get the ball, they can select and apply an action within milliseconds. 2, decide how to receive the ball. 3, decide what to do with their first touch. 4, be aware of the space. 5, be aware of teammates. 6, be aware of opponents. 7, assess the capability of their opponents. 8, select the weakest person to face in that scenario. 9, choose whether to dribble, pass or shoot. 10, be aware of the different parts of their body. 11, coordinate the parts of the body. 12, be aware of the ball. 13, be aware of what will happen after they give the ball to a teammate. 14, think of the appropriate technique to use, how the ball will arrive to the teammate. 15, select the technique. 16, think of which foot to use. 17, assess whether the ball is in the right place to connect effectively. 18, execute. Now you've played football. I don't know if you ever thought of those stages.
One word I'd use for all that is instinct.
Exactly, and this is what I'm saying. We simplify things. So when I said unconscious competence before, we say habit. In football, we say instinct. But how do you develop that? Because it's practice, and what you're doing is in the game. So if you look at a time when you played a match, I know that as soon as a player has the ball and he looks up, I know I'm going to make my movement. But when I make my movement, I have to have an image in my head of what I'm going to do. So if you have the ball and Max makes a run, I need to now think, okay, so I'm going to give it to Max, but I need 2 sub options as well, because if Max, that option goes, I can't then rely solely on that, because if the person marks him, takes that option out of the game, I've got to think about something else to do.
But then you're relying on your other teammates making the option for you.
No, I'm not, because what the play is happening anyway. So it's a case of I could have Max making a run and somebody stationary. So I can think, okay, I'm going to give Max, he's making a run in behind, I can play him in. If that gets cut off, I'm going to play the guy that's literally the easy option right beside me. But I need to have like 3 options. The best players can literally flick through the options like nothing. And that's why when you go back to Champions League final, you had Marcelo crossing the ball to Gareth Bale. It was a whip. It was like between Marcelo's boot and Gareth Bale's connection. That was about 2 seconds. So you have to assess all these situations at once. Even going back to, I don't want to just focus on overhead kicks, but even Wayne Rooney's one in the Man U derby. Yeah. Did you see how when the cross came in, how he had to assess the flight of the ball, and he actually did a little jockey to one side? These are all the things you have to consider at once. So when we look at instinct, you're right, but those things they all come under instinct. The best players like Paul Scholes, he has that windscreen wiper head for a reason. He's collecting data, and he knows everything that's going on there. And Ronaldinho could not do a no-look pass without actually knowing what's going on. You know, he's already collected that information, and he's thinking, okay, if that player goes there and cuts that off, I'm going to go somewhere else.
But I think every player should have a picture in his mind as he's receiving the ball.
Yeah.
That is what you get told from your coaches as you're growing up. But then the coach can only tell you it so many times before you pick it up, and you take that information into your brain. Yeah. So when that ball's coming to you, my coaches, I remember I was at Sunderland, we had a coach called Bobby Saxton, and he said to me, you should have, and you just mentioned it there, 3 options in your mind as a left back. Your wide player should be your first pass, your second pass should be into a midfield player, and your third one, if there's nothing on, is put it in behind the fullback that you're playing against. That was my 3 options. Obviously on certain occasions, or many occasions when you've got the ball, you probably have more than 3, but they're the 3. As soon as he said that to me, that made my game a lot easier. And what I worked on through training, whether you did an 11v11 or whatever you were doing in training, was that in training. until it filtered into my brain where it was just natural. I didn't have to think about it. I knew those 3 options would be there for me. But that was coming from a coach. You know, this is like, and I'm not disrespecting what you've done here, by the way. I'm just saying to you as it is, right? My coach was my mentor at the time. You have a manager who goes into a dressing room with you on a match day, and you listen to what your manager has to say. But through the week, your coach is your coach. So he's my eyes and ears. I've got to then soak that all in as a sponge, take on board what I know what he wants from me. But then, what about the mental side of it as well? You know, you talk about players, individual players, who, and I've seen so many of them, by the way. In 20 years of playing the game, I've seen so many talented players from Monday to Friday. You put them on a field on a Saturday, scared to death.
Well, do you know what? Before we go on to that, I just want to, for people that are listening, just to be clear. So just talking about the instinct and what your coach told you, you still had to be capable of doing that.
Yeah,
so,
no, absolutely.
Yeah, and so the reason why you have top players like someone like Santi Cazorla, who's absolutely unbelievable, is that because he can use both feet, it opens up his option pool. Whereas you, like, what will make you different from being a pro and somebody else is that they can't construct those images. So it's one thing a coach telling you that, but it's one thing you being able to do that. So what is the process? We can't just say it's instinct. There's a process that happens within you. So you having those images in your head, you know that, for example, what did you say your first option would be?
To my left winger.
To your left winger. So if that gets cut off, if you're, I don't know if it's going to be to feet, but that person marking him cuts him out, what would you do? The ball's coming towards you, what are you going to do? So you're going to go to your left winger, the person marking your left winger now picks up that information because you might look. So now he goes and shuts that left winger off, so you can't give it to him. What are you going to do?
Then I look for my midfield player.
Okay, so the ball's coming to you, the person's marking you now is steaming into you, you're going to again play it to who, sorry?
My midfield player. Exactly.
So what we're talking about is the process. Does that make sense?
It makes
so
sense.
All this is going on within half a second.
But this is what coaches say to you, right? In a play, right.
Yeah.
But this is, you can fill your brain with so much information, right? But it's game management. You don't know from game to game, from minute to minute, from second to second, what is going to happen in a game, and that's why I keep saying it's instinct, and it is all instinct.
But sorry,
you gotta go to a break.
Oh, okay.
It's all right. We've got 3 sections,
Okay.
Kev, so we can do this.
Okay.
Bob, you can pitch in whenever you like, or just listen. That's fine. It is Max in for Jim. Kevin George's. His book is Soccology. It's fascinating. I want to talk about Ronaldo playing football in the dark. I want to talk about the mental side of it as well, which Micky brought up as well. We'll be back.